What I actually learned that have now become a part of me, things I would not forget, things that are now in here. Thank you for coming back. This video is especially for student social workers, those on ASYE, as well as qualified social workers who just want to relieve their past experiences whilst there was an ASYE. When I first started my ASYE, I had expectations about myself, the job, the families I will be working with, and how I thought I would or should be coping at the time. I thought by the time I qualified, I'll be a social worker who can do anything, would be accepted with any family I go to, and they would give me that respect. But no, I wasn't correct. I thought I would be crossing an invincible line after I qualify, become a social worker with a license, and I would automatically know everything I was doing. What I quickly learned is that qualifying doesn't make you know everything automatically. It doesn't remove the uncertainty you felt as a student social worker about a lot of things. It only introduces you to a whole new profession. Before I had my social work pin, I worked as a social work practitioner for about 5 months or so. When my pin came in, I then took on the social worker role. So the families I worked with as a practitioner were somehow still the same families I had for the first few weeks. But it didn't feel any different because my experience was still my experience. It only introduced me to a whole different level. The first lesson is confidence doesn't come first, but experience does. It doesn't arrive before the work, it arrives through the work I do with children. In the beginning, I doubted myself very badly. I would go into a family, or when I get a new referral, I would go into the family thinking, what do I even talk to these people about? What do I say to them? I wasn't going in there claiming to be an experienced social worker. However, I won't go there showing them that I'm incompetent. But I still felt like they could see through me that I've only been out of school for a few weeks, and what do I know? There was one time I had a referral. I was speaking to the parent on the phone, and guess what the parent said? I wonder if you bought your degree from eBay or from Shein. When I told my manager, she got very furious. It was an unacceptable thing to do. But just imagine having such comments as a newly qualified social worker. It really impacted on my confidence. But that didn't stop me. It only made me want to push myself so I can be in a position of experience where I would talk to a parent and they would actually listen, knowing that what I'm saying is what they want to hear. I worried honestly about saying the wrong thing or missing something important in my conversations, especially when I have those high-end families who are living in expensive areas. What no one actually tells you is that uncertainty is part of competence. If you care, you will ask yourself questions. If you're reflective, you'll feel unsure at times. And that doesn't mean you're failing. It only means you're learning. Number 2 lesson, emotional impact is real on this job and it builds quietly. It is why it isn't just professionally demanding. It's emotionally demanding. You're exposed to other people's trauma, which you take on board subconsciously. Family breakdown, pains, the crisis in family. Whilst you're still learning, you can't even tell it happening. Often while you're processing your own emotional responses. For me, there were moments when cases stayed with me long. We finished work at 5:30 and then I'm still on my work laptop or in the office doing 1 or 2 things. All of this is what leads to burnout. Sometimes I would actually dread having a phone call from a parent. Moments when I felt emotionally heavy without fully understanding why. What ASYE taught me is that vicarious trauma doesn't always arrive loudly. It comes gradually, it builds quietly, it builds slowly, even without you taking notes. Sometimes it shows up as exhaustion, as you feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes as you wanting to cry, which I did a lot of times on this job. You just feel irritable. You can't even tell how to feel about a family. And it's okay to acknowledge that you actually don't need to be strong for anyone. You need the support for yourself. Lesson number 3, supervision is not optional, it's protective. I cannot stress this enough. Your supervision isn't another time for you to tick boxes and write your portfolio. It's a time for you to sit down with your manager, your supervisor, with your assessor, to talk about where you're at, how your families, how the children you're working with is impacting on your family life, what you've learned, what you hope to learn, and how much more kindness you can give to yourself. Use it wisely. I remember my manager always telling me then, hey, Abby, if you feel some type of way, it's okay. This is the time where you talk to me. If you don't talk to me, I won't know how to help you. During my ASYE, supervision became a lifeline, not just for case directions, but for emotional containment. I learned that it's okay to say, I'm struggling with this case. I don't know what I'm doing. How can I do this? It's okay to ask for help. I remember a few months after I started this job, I'll compose an email to send to my parent, but lack of confidence won't let me click the send button. Instead, I will copy it and send to my manager or a senior social worker within the team to help me proofread before I send. And oftentimes they will read and tell me it's okay, just send it. One day my manager said, Abby, it's okay to make mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, how would you learn? You don't have to be scared to make those mistakes. Make them and own up to them. That's how your confidence builds. If you keep on trying to do things perfectly the way I want you to, you will end up losing yourself trying to please me. Learn for yourself through making mistakes, not expensive ones, as long as there is no loss of life. Every other error can be corrected, and that stuck with me. It's boosted my confidence. So it's okay to in supervision to say, this is affecting me more than I thought. How can you help me? How can we manage this? You're not expected to carry every family's burden, and trying to do so is the quickest path to burnout. ASYE taught me asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's called professionalism. There's a reason why professionalism is #1 professional capability framework in England. Lesson number 4, you will feel behind even when you're not. There were times when I felt like everyone else was making progress except me. Other newly qualified social workers seemed more confident, more organized, more put together. They seemed more like they knew what they were doing. Comparison is a lie, I know that. Everyone struggles, but it shows up differently. ASYE taught me to focus on my growth, not someone else's. Progress is linear. You are not late, you are just learning. I remember when we go for those trainings, I would see other newly qualified asking very intelligent questions, talking about this family they worked with, and that happened. And I was thinking to myself, am I doing anything wrong? Whether these ones go to learn that they have so much confidence. Some of them were probably in that line of work before going to get their degree, whereas me, I'm a newbie, new in every aspect you can think about. In no time, I learned, and I'm giving myself grace to learn at my own pace without competing with anyone. What I know today is better than what I knew yesterday. So it only shows how much growth I've had. You're not late. Give yourself that grace. Lesson number 5, perfectionism will exhaust you faster than you can imagine. I entered my ASYE with high expectations of myself. I wanted to get everything right based on my personality as a perfectionist. I wanted to be thorough, reliable, and be presentable professionally at all times. What I didn't realize was how exhausting perfectionism can be. Because I graduated with a distinction in my master's degree, I thought I needed to live up to that expectation. But people can see through you that you're trying too hard. What I didn't realize was how exhausting perfectionism would make me feel in a job that is emotionally and mentally demanding. That's why he told me that good enough is often good enough. You can do your best and still feel dissatisfied. You are not responsible for fixing everything. Letting go of perfection didn't make me careless. It made me sustainable. If I didn't let go of the fact that things will not always go the way I wanted. I would have actually felt more burned out at the time before going off work. It's okay to make mistakes. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace. The more put together you try to be, the more people will see how much of a newbie you are. People can see through you when it's not your comfort zone, particularly if it's an entirely new experience like it was for me as an international student here. Lesson number 6. You are a person first, a social worker second. This lesson became especially clear as I navigated ASYE while pregnant and managing family life. ASYE taught me that I am not just a role, I'm a person. I'm a human with emotions, with needs and limitations, and you're allowed to feel tired sometimes. Towards the end, because I knew I would be going off work for some time because of maternity leave, I thought I needed to do everything to be a superhero. Despite how sick and miserable I felt, I only went off sick one time, which wasn't supposed to be. At the end of the day, it was my family and myself who felt the impact, because I would come back home completely drained. I got so sick during pregnancy that I couldn't even put anything down. What I did at the time was, if I'm going out to visit a family or to the office, I would avoid eating till I get back home. Imagine a pregnant woman not eating the whole day till evening. That's how much stress I put my body through. I'm glad my baby is well and she's thriving without any issues. We don't have to actually take on board everything because we want to look good in the eye of our manager or our supervisor. It's okay to feel tired, and it's okay to say it. You are allowed to have hard days. I need to say those things. You're allowed to rest. I didn't say this enough to myself. Can you imagine someone else telling you to rest when you know you should be, because you're doing too much? I honestly wish I took those advices on board at the time. I worked until I couldn't anymore. I ended up taking a month before the arrival of my baby to help me prepare, which I should have done earlier, but I just kept on going and pushing. Please hear this. Being human doesn't make you any less professional. It makes you a professional with a heart. Always have this in mind. Lesson number 7. Growth often feels like discomfort. Some of the most uncomfortable moments of my ASYE were also the most formative ones. Moments when I didn't have the answer, when I made genuine mistakes, moments when I had to deeply reflect and sit with discomfort. It doesn't feel empowering at first. Sometimes it feels unsettling, and it's okay. If you're starting ASYE, you don't need to know everything. Your comfort zone isn't the best place for you to grow. You grow more when you're in an uncomfortable position. You don't need to be confident all the time. You don't need to have it all figured out. What you need is curiosity, willingness to learn, compassion for yourself, and grace for growth. You are becoming. You are not behind. ASYE changed me as a professional, as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter. It changed my whole behavior, my response to situations, how I think. It changed how I conclude on issues, and it's given me more empathy for things around me, especially for myself. It stretched me, it humbled me, and it taught me that resilience isn't about pushing better. It's about knowing when to pause. I've given you 7 lessons instead of 5. You're welcome. If you're on your ASYE journey and you're finding it tough, I see you. I was there. It was very tough for me, but we pulled through. You're stronger than you can imagine. Give yourself grace for things that are happening right now, and know it will come to an end very soon. Be kind to yourself and take note of every learning. Sometimes we learn without our knowing, but know you're doing the right thing. You're doing amazing, and I see you. If you're considering social work but feeling unsure, know that growth doesn't mean you won't struggle. It means you will learn how to carry things differently. If this resonated with you, please feel free to drop a comment. Click on the subscribe button and put on the notification bell so you can see more of our videos each time we make a post. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.